The older I get, the more I ask myself the question, should I continue to do this myself? And some of this says I have opportunity now, the resources to hire it out. I do think that we should be very careful to consider the loss of time and the end results, maybe loss of quality, that if we go down that path, that is very frequently a byproduct of saying, yeah, I'm going to try it.
Welcome to the Navigating Abundance podcast. Our goal is to encourage you to pursue your total family wealth potential through insightful conversation with experts and thought leaders in their fields. But first, some obligatory disclosures. Navigating Abundance podcasts do not represent investment, legal, or tax advice. Any opinion expressed in Navigating Abundance podcast is solely those of Christopher Tanke and his guests and are based upon information believed to be reliable but not guaranteed. Podcasts are produced for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered an endorsement of the guest or the views that they hold. Information shared may not be appropriate for your personal situation. Consult a qualified advisor for guidance. Investment advisory services are offered through Strategic Financial Group LLC, a registered investment advisor. Navigating Abundance is a trademark of Strategic Financial Group LLC. And now here's your host, Chris Tanke.
Welcome back to Navigating Abundance. I'm Chris Tanke along with Connor Maki, and we have a very important question for you, a question which you probably have already asked yourself a couple hundred times, even this early in the year. And here it is. Should I continue to do this myself or not?
Yeah.
Should I continue to do it myself or not? Right?
I love that question, Chris, because I think we live in a culture and a society right now where the tools to do things ourselves are so readily available, and it makes it simple to just plug something into AI, plug something into Google, and think that you're getting a great result and that you're going to do it yourself just fine. But I think you and I know that that's not usually the case.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to find that the more mature you become in a business or an enterprise or some kind of project, there's a sort of a creep that comes in to where you quickly become obsolete for the job. It becomes too big for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think as we talk about some of these things, we've got 4 different areas that you might want to reconsider whether you should be doing it yourself or not. A lot of this, maybe 5-10 years ago, it was great. But the problem is you've had too much success and you've really, you're no longer qualified for the job.
Yeah.
And that can happen. So just this got me thinking this week a little bit here. I had some kind of a foot problem which needed some attention, some kind of rash. And I at night, it really, really got bad. And during the day, it wasn't so bad. And my wife kept saying at night, you got to go to the doctor. Come on, Chris, you don't know what you're doing. Go take care of that. And I said, no, I'm going to put this on this and I'm going to do this and jump on my left foot and spin around. And I bet it'll be okay. And I woke up in the morning and it was fine. Throughout the day, it was fine. But at night, come about 8 o'clock, it started really to burn and to itch really bad again. And then it started to spread a little bit. And my wife said, Chris, go to the doctor tomorrow. And so finally, I did. I stopped my do-it-myselfing and went to see the physician. And that physician identified what was going on relatively quickly, gave me something topical to put on it. And I'm here today, a much happier man. Did I play doctor for those previous 3 days and suffer? I don't know, but I stopped doing it myself and I went to see the pro.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the reason why you probably did it yourself is because that's what you've done your whole life. And that's what a lot of people do, right? Life starts out pretty simple. And then things get more complicated with time and with age. And as the business progresses and everything, it gets more complicated. And we start to realize that we need to bring in the right professionals for the right job. And same with the situation that you're talking about, right? Throughout most of our life, we're just taking care of ourselves and we want to push off the necessity to actually go to the right professional.
Yeah, exactly right. So the price of DIY historically, now that I've come to recognize a couple of things, and they're a very big price. The first is the loss of personal time. Now, the foot isn't a really good illustration of that, but perhaps drywalling is. I can do that. Yeah. I can put a roof on my house if I want. I'm still able to do that. I would never consider doing that. I can do some plumbing around the house and, kind of get it done. It would take a long time, but I'm pretty good. That's fine. But when I choose to do those things, I lose personal time. time with my grandchildren, time with my business, time with my wife, or whatever the case might be. And of course, the other problem is quality of results, because when I'm done with my plumbing, it's not as good, I'll tell you, as if I
Right.
just would have hired a plumber.
Right.
Now, if you really enjoy doing those things, do it, of course. But if you don't so much, there is a great series of costs with DIY mentality that you might want to try to jettison from your thought processes.
Yeah, that actually brings up a memory of mine. The first house that we bought was a junk house, right? So we had a lot of work that we had to do, and we were young and broke, and so we did a lot of the work ourselves. And I'll never forget the only time I've ever had to use those what they call premium vinyl planks
Mm.
was in a small 3x3 area. And it was a small enough area I was willing to do it. So I started putting them together, and I'm on the last plank, right? And I've never done this before. I notice a gap way up by where I started at. So what
Uh-oh.
do, Chris? I push everything. And
Oh,
what
no.
happens? All the planks
Buckled.
explode
Yeah.
and they buckle everywhere. It's one of those moments, right, where I thought I could have done this myself, that the quality would have been sufficient. But as a result, because I didn't know what I was doing, not only did I waste my time, but probably to this day, it's probably still not quite the quality floor that you might want
Yeah.
in a situation like that.
Yeah. And so, I think the older I get, the more I ask myself the question, should I continue to do this myself? And some of this says I have opportunity now, resources to hire it out. So I can even ask the question, right? But I do think that we should be very careful to consider the loss of time and the end results, maybe loss of quality, that if we go down that path, that is very frequently a byproduct of saying, yeah, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
So again, I think you should try to do a lot of DIY stuff. But there are some things maybe you shouldn't, and start thinking that way. So in regards to total family wealth, we would suggest there's a lot you shouldn't try to DIY or DYI.
All right. So, Chris, we've got these certain areas in our life, especially as professionals, business owners, people who are really busy and also expect really quality results, where if we try and do it ourselves, it's just not going to work out in
Mhm.
favor of our time and in favor of the quality. So, today we're just going to be talking about a couple of those things. Let's just start with one of them. What's one of the things that you think professionals, especially those who are short on time and expect high quality, should be parting out to professionals?
Yes, exactly right. So we understand, right? With our businesses, with our taxes, with our trust work, we're parting that out already. Those are the obvious things.
Mhm.
But this one isn't quite as obvious, but really, really important. And that is your cybersecurity design.
Yes, absolutely.
And we see a lot of gaps in what's necessary. And here's the irony: we spend a lot of money on personal security or on electronic alarm systems and things such as that. We don't always spend money on cybersecurity, and that really is one of the great vulnerabilities. And ironically, the more we're able to amass, the more subject we are to attack. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, cybersecurity is a big deal. And again, I'm practicing what I'm preaching. Just last week, we had our cybersecurity expert that does all the stuff here around our offices came again to our house to make sure that we were rock solid in the design that we had.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't think people, maybe it's coming more to the forefront of people's minds, but a lot of people don't realize just how vulnerable they are to cyber attack or to have their data stolen. Chris, have you ever had your identity stolen?
mhm,
Yeah, I have too. And I'm a little nobody in Western Michigan. And I had
mhm.
people opening up debit accounts in Wisconsin and touring apartments in North Carolina. I would have never thought that I would have been a target for this. How much more of a risk is it if you have a business that's worth 5, 6, 7, $10 million, and suddenly you have a target on your back because they might understand that they can not only steal your data, use it to open up accounts in your name, but also the real worry is, I think, is when they hold the data hostage and they say, hey,
Mhm.
we have your personal information. Not only do we have your personal information, but we have your client's personal information.
Right.
And if you don't wire us $300,000 right now, we're going to release it to the public. That's a terrifying thought for any business owner. and it has to be taken seriously.
Yeah, it really does. Of course, now we're in the world of AI,
Hmm.
and here, a lot of us are doing. We're familiar with second party authentication and those sorts of things to try to design this. But you know, anymore, if somebody calls up and or even emails or calls up and we talk about, hey, you'd like to take some money out or move somebody here, make some allocations. That's not good enough for us. I can't trust your voice anymore.
Yeah.
So now we're figuring other ways then to come back to known, right, email addresses or to basically to cell phones and stuff to make sure that we can talk to that person in that way. It's just a really big deal, and it's becoming more and more complicated. You might have been really good at this 10 years ago, but this is more than a firewall. And we really would encourage you to wonder, is now the time not to DIY my cybersecurity? Here's another one: real estate.
Yeah.
We see
Everybody's
this.
favorite game.
We see it all the time where somebody, we started out with 2 or 3 rental properties, and then we were up to 14 rental properties, and now we got 28 rental properties. And you know what happens? What happens is I'm ready to pull my hair out because I'm not managing my real estate. My real estate's managing me.
Right.
That creep comes in, and all of a sudden, you're overwhelmed. And some of you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be insane for somebody who is worth $30 to $50 million to be going into their Airbnb after every single customer and cleaning the floors, wiping down the counters. That would be insane. But they don't ever stop to think that maybe there are other things that I should not be managing when it comes to their real estate. So should they even be, if it is a short-term rental, should they even be managing the schedule of all of their short-term rentals? It can very quickly turn into a full-time job for them
Mhm.
just to manage this one portion of their portfolio. And a lot of people, they just don't have time for that, especially if they are business owners.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So real estate's a lovely thing, but unless you've set up it in such a way that it's passive for you, which means you probably have to have other people that are handling the active part, it can control your life. And again, it's creep. It's I would say it's also possible that you're no longer qualified to manage that portfolio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay, and it's nothing against you. Maybe you're good at acquiring them and making deals, and that's all that kind of stuff. But the nitty gritty of managing them, it's not your thing. And it's become to such the point that it's becoming obvious. You have to realize that you're not competent to do it anymore. It's too big. You've
Yeah.
risen to your level of incompetence.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally, but that happens in a lot of areas of our lives. And it's the wise and courageous person that says, I'm so blessed, this is too complicated, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to hire a team to do it for me, right?
Yeah. So when do we know that we're actually at that point? Because I think a lot of business owners
I
in
think your wife
particular,
tells you.
your wife tells you
No,
there's
I
probably
don't.
some truth in that, but there's probably a lot of business owners who just have this mentality, right? Of I can do it all. I
Yep.
don't care what it is. I believe that I can tackle any task.
Right.
I can manage any portfolio. I've been doing this for years. How do we know that we're actually to the point where it's time to give it up and pass it on to a professional and maybe spend some money in doing so?
I think there's 2 tells: restless nights
Yep, I would agree.
and your CPA getting on your case saying you can't do it this way.
Yeah,
That's 2 tells right there.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Don't argue with your CPA. What that means is, well, maybe you're not as organized, or you don't have time to arrange things in the proper way. CPA keeps saying, but you got to do this. You're going to get audited. And you know what? You might get audited. So
Yeah,
yeah, the bottom the bottom line is it's no shame to say, hey, I'm not good enough for this anymore because this is not how I started. I'm
yeah,
so blessed. I need help.
you're
Do
right.
that. Do
I
that.
think there's one more that you can add to that list, and that is when mistakes start to happen. When
Yeah.
you start making consistent mistakes, everybody's going to make mistakes. Every business owner knows that they take a risk, they screw something up, and they go, "Whoops, all right, that didn't work out how I wanted it to."
Yep.
But when you start making the same mistake over and over again, and they start to add up, it's probably a sign that you're over your head, and it's time to bring somebody else in to start managing these things.
Yep. and your husband or wife will like you better if you do it. I promise you.
That's right.
That's
You'll be
another. That's
around more.
a great byproduct. Here's
Right.
another one: significant collections. All right. So you acquire a few nice watches. You're going to give one to each of the kids, some for the girls, some for the boys, and they're nice. They're heirloom watches. You spend some noticeable money on them, and that's fine. But then you start, I don't know, trolling around watch auction sites and whatnot, or you spent some time on 47th Street, New York, and you got in trouble a little bit there, and of course, then give time. This is all 20 years in making, so things have really increased in value, and all of a sudden, you don't have a few watches you've acquired; you have a collection that needs to be curated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And who is it? Kevin Leary, the Shark Tank guy.
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful.
He's really, really big into watches, and he's got zillions and zillions of dollars in watches. And I promise you, he's curating that collection. He's not doing that on his own. You can't. Right.
Yeah.
And
so you're saying that he's not just going to Chrono 24 and typing in his model numbers and saying that this is how much it's worth?
No. And he doesn't need any more tags. He's gone way above that now. So the point is that significant collections, and this could be art or anything like that, could be quite valuable. So now all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, it's a period of years. You got to think about, how do I store these things so I don't hurt them, right? And so a lot of you, if you know watch collectors, they actually have automatic winders. They put their watches in this thing, and it keeps them going, so they can, because you don't want them to wind down. And there's great debate in the horological community on whether that's a good idea or not. But the point is, you have to start thinking about how you're going to store these things or display these things if you're running out of wall space, and yet there's too much sun coming on the windows for some of these oil paintings. How do you secure them?
Right. It's a big deal.
How do you insure them? This is not a little addendum on your homeowner's policy. Right. Now, if you have $30 million, $40 million in art, how are you going to do that? And who's the expert there? Here again, don't do it yourself. Don't call Progressive. Not going to work. How about appraisals? Who do you rely upon for up-to-date appraisals? And I would say this: if you're at that level, 20, 30, 40 million in collections, and you're buying and selling watches or art or other pieces like that, who's your guy? You got to have a guy. Right? If you say, wow, I've got this watch, it's a $200,000 Patek Philippe, and it looks good. It is used, but it all checks out. Do you just cut a check and that's good?
No.
Who's your guy?
You've got to have a guy. Everybody's got to have a guy for something. But in this in particular, the worst case scenario is you think that you have a watch that's not really worth much. Maybe it's some old vintage watch that is a holy grail to a lot of people. Right. And you bring it to just you mentioned the Diamond District, right? 47th Street in New York. You bring it there, somebody looks at it and they say, oh, it's worth $5,000. How much? You say, oh, well, $5,000 is $5,000. You sell it to them. And then later on that day, you're looking online, you find out that it's worth 100, 150. You've got to have a reliable source of somebody that you can go to make sure that your significant collections are valued appropriately. And this even plays into, well, eventually these might be things that you want to pass down to your kids.
Right.
And if that's the case, and you want to make sure it's even between them, if that's your goal, then you should probably know how much they're worth. And of course, worth doesn't always mean dollars to the kids, but you should probably have an idea in mind of how much these things are worth, and it should be accurate from a professional.
Yep. Well said. I think that nails it exactly. In this area, it's very easy to fake. It's very easy to grade. It's completely genuine. It's just the grading you're paying for can make all the difference. Like a baseball card, right? Worth $1 million, worth $10. And to the naked eye, you can't hardly tell the difference, right? But it depends on the number, the serial that it was stamped. It depends on the quality, all that kind of stuff. Guess what? You're a wonderfully smart, brilliant person, but is this your area? You need a guy.
You do.
And you know what? The guy might be a little more expensive to go through, right? If you really want a deal, well, that's fine if you want to roll the dice in a $200,000 watch. But I sure want a guy from a reputable source that I've worked with to be able to qualify that watch as to be worth the money or to be what I think it is. You need a guy. So cybersecurity, real estate, significant collections can morph pretty quickly, actually, into projects you don't want to DIY. I did it again. DIY. No, DIY.
DIY, do it yourself.
DIY. You don't want to DIY any longer. Fourth one here is one that you might not think about. And this is why we're presenting these, because the first three you might not think about. Another one that's kind of a little off topic here might be is your family ethos or family spirit. This is squarely in our legacy wealth category, which is your family wealth, which is your people. And so one of the things we encourage you to do is under that area of your legacy wealth is to build up your family ethos or spirit so that when you are long gone, your children and your grandchildren and others, they will have a great appreciation for your history, for how the business got here versus how your family got here, their roots. That is a very, very valuable thing to pass on to others. And it is worth some effort. There are a lot of ways you could do that. We created, I think, a couple of the podcasts talk about some of these things like building family traditions and family recipes and those sorts of things. But in regards to history, I'm dealing with this right now. It's the second illustration of my life. I'm opening up to y'all. I've got, I don't know, 2,000 slides. What is that? It's not 50 millimeter. 50 millimeter is I've got those too. I've got slides. Back when they had slides and a slide projector.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is?
I can't remember the medium.
What is a slide?
I can't remember. I've got that.
Help a young man out here.
What you mean? What is a slide?
Yeah, what is a slide? Help me out with this, Chris. I grew up with cell phones.
You didn't know what a slide is?
I know what printed photos are.
Well, there you go. So you take a picture, and then you take the roll in to the pharmacy, and they'd say, "Do you want a picture or do you want a slide?" And a slide, of course, is a film.
Okay.
And around it is a cardboard or whatever. And you take that slide and put it in a slide projector, and then you'd cast it up on the wall, and then the picture's big.
Wonderful.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And so I've got my dad's old slide projector. I've got his old 8 millimeter movie camera because I got some of those crazy things. And so we pared it down from 4,000 slides to 2,000 slides because now I'm the historian. And now I know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to pack that up and send it off to Legacy Box or something like that because they will put it on contemporary media that even Connor would understand.
I would understand it. Now you're speaking my language.
So anyway, I'll have to bring a slide in so you can see it, Connor.
I'd love to see it. I mean, I know what film is. I know what that is. I did grow up with the little wind up cameras and you take a picture and it's disposable and you have to remember to bring it to the store before you actually throw it out. I know what all that is.
Well,
I've just never heard of a slide.
I'm just going to open up your world tomorrow, brother. But anyway, so Legacy Box, and a lot of you know you've got that kind of stuff, or you've got cassette recordings and stuff like that. You can send that in, and they'll digitize it for you. There are groups that also will, for a price, sit down with you and say, "Look, there's other things that you can do. Like, how would you like us to produce a coffee table book about your family?" And they'll work with you to coordinate this. And you could have all the important pictures and the storyline and what's going on. I really, really like that because your grandchildren are more apt to pick up that book than they are to look at digital media. Or you can also have digital media of appropriate slides running on those digital pictures or whatever. Or you could even write a book, and someone will help you do that, to talk about the story coming over on the boat and how hard it was at first to get started, how you went from farming to manufacturing, the different challenges and struggles that you have or whatever, and create your legacy that way that could be remembered, because I promise you, they're going to forget you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In 2 generations,
it's true.
That's it.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you my great-grandparents' first names.
I can tell you one.
I can't do it.
Yeah. And I only know that because I looked it up recently. If I hadn't looked it up recently, I wouldn't know. But what I love about what you just presented, especially with the book, is that it's something that's timeless, right? So you talk about slides and turning them into some sort of contemporary media that people can consume today. a book is still going to be timeless. My dad did something similar, right? He sent in our old photos and he had them put on DVDs. And DVDs during that day were the way to look at media in a large scale format. It was seen as safe, reliable, and we're going to store these forever. I don't have a DVD player in my house.
Right.
I'm not going to go out and buy a DVD player for this. I mean, I would if he gave them to me, but it's not contemporary anymore. A book is timeless. It's something that can sit on the coffee table, like you said, for a long time, and you can pass it down. In fact, it looks kind of cooler once it's been worn through a little bit, right? It's something that's easier to pass down.
Well, it might even be like the family Bible, as it were, So I think it's a great idea. And again, some of your kids might really love that. Others would, they don't care about that. But the point is, 20 years from now, they might. They might.
Absolutely.
I think that family spirit, the roots, your history, passing that along in a way that is digestible, if that creates appreciation, and that really affects the character of your children and grandchildren if you do it right. I think it's really great. So here you go. So there we go. Should you do it yourself or not? Here's 4 areas you may not think you should. You haven't thought about it. Cybersecurity, you're probably out of your league if you're listening to this, guys. Don't be cheap. You're protecting the rest of your property. Don't be cheap on this. This is a really open door, and it's only going to get worse. Real estate, is it running you or are you running it? Maybe it's outgrown you. Significant collections, be realistic about what you've done and what you may or may not be able to do now on your own. You can still buy, but somebody has to curate this now, perhaps. And then your family ethos or spirit, history. How do you do that? I certainly don't want to take 2,000 slides and put them on digital media. I can. I can do it onesie twosies, but I don't want to do that. Back to loss of personal time and quality of results. We're back up to that as well.
Yeah.
And there's one more.
One more.
And Connor, I'm going to let you talk about what is the final DIY project you probably shouldn't be doing yourself anymore.
I do want to say this before I get into that.
Okay.
With all of these, the first 3, cybersecurity, real estate, significant collections, I think there's a moment in time where it becomes obvious that it's become too much for you. Somebody who has $1 million in watches is well aware that they have something special that they need to protect. Somebody who has several or dozens or multiple of dozens of real estate properties, they become aware at some point this is far beyond them. And with cybersecurity, I think we're in a world today where everybody's aware that it is far beyond us. And if you're not aware, you need to become aware. Ethos, family spirit, I almost think that this is something that's assumed is going to work itself out. And that terrifies me because it's this idea that my kids will just pick up on it. My kids will just know. Well, if you don't tell them explicitly, they won't know. If you never sit down and fill out the questionnaire for the book, never fill in the photos, never send in the slides, they're not going to know. They're going to get a box of stuff when you pass away, and they're going to wonder, what do I even do with this? And so this last category of total family wealth, which kind of brings all of these together, is where we realize that we cannot be doing this ourselves. This is complicated. You start adding up the list, and we'll show the graphic again of all these areas that we say, these are things that you should be focusing on. You start to look at this list and it becomes very overwhelming. We think of taxes in particular. If you are 30, 50, $80 million net worth, you're not doing your own taxes, right? It's far too complicated. So why then do we look at this entire list of things that we need to focus on in life and think that we can do it ourselves? Chances are we're not able to. We need some help. This is a team sport. So if that is something that you're interested in, something that you need a little bit of help with, we'd encourage you to go to navigatingabundance.com, click on the contact us. You can fill out that little form there. Give us a call, give us an email, subscribe to the channel, watch more episodes. We're here to help and educate you on what it means to pursue your total family wealth.
Very well said. And, there's a greater stewardship than trying to accomplish that. And it's an impossibility. You can't do it. It's too much. It is too much. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't accomplish 70 or 80% of it, or as much as you possibly can. Right. Yeah. So we need to look at this philosophically, right? I've got so much time left. How much of this can I get done, especially in the areas of legacy wealth? And roll up your sleeves and start. So with that in mind, as we always like to say, and we'll close off with this, that sure, it's a lot of work, but what greater task would there be than to work on truly the most precious resources in your life, and to do it in a way that your children and grandchildren will rise up and call you blessed when you're gone. So please remember, yes, it's a lot of work, but your family is worth it.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Navigating Abundance. If you found this information useful or helpful in any way, let us know in the comments section below. If you'd like to see more content like this and follow our podcast, you can find us on all major podcast platforms. If you're interested in working with today's guests, you can find their information in the description of this podcast. If you'd like to know more about Navigating Abundance and how we may help you, or find more resources related to what we do, you can find those at navigatingabundance.com.